All right, and we are live. What's up, sir? Nice to see you again.
See you.
So you contacted me last week about wanting to do something in particular, and we weren't able to do one last week. So here we are, Christmas Eve morning, throwing one together. So you said you had something in particular you want to talk about. You want to just take it from here?
Yeah, I'll take it from here. So, first we're going to talk about bullying today, so that's going to be fun. But before
is it two different topics, or are they kind of interconnected?
No, they're two completely different topics, but these things happen to me, and it just so happens to be in alignment with everything we talk about on the podcast, like paying attention, being focused, doing the right thing, like all that kind of stuff. So
I would also like to say before you get started, usually we're drinking whiskey. This is coffee in my Channel 4 news team coffee mug.
Or whiskey. That's the way to start the morning.
I mean, it is Christmas Eve, so who knows? All right. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So, I went to eat last week in like a burger place, and you go up and there's like a menu outside, and you walk in and order, and there's like not a menu inside. I don't know. It's all chic and fancy.
That's right. You guys live in Florida, so you guys can still do stuff outside.
Yeah, lots
of stuff.
So,
hey, little Irish coffee.
No, I have a 3-year-old, so I can't get to I got to be present. That starts around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So we go to this place, and she tells me what she wants, whatever, and so I'm like, it says like burgers, and then it just literally lists like the burgers underneath it, and I just see mushroom burger, so I'm like, there we go. I love mushroom burger. Let's go. So I go up, I order mushroom burger, whatever. I order a double, and the lady looked at me kind of like I'm an idiot. Like when I order the double, like in retrospective now, I'm like, oh, that's why she was.
Yeah.
So I get our food, right, and it's a freaking deep fried patty this thick of a mushroom with cheese inside, and because I ordered a double, there's like 2 of them, and it's like this. There's no meat on this sandwich. It was a fucking mushroom.
I'm assuming because I had the same sort of question. Were you thinking like it's a beef burger with mushrooms on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you weren't thinking it was just like a portobello cap.
No, you've known me for a long time.
That's why I understand. However, having a brother who's a vegetarian, as soon as you said mushroom burger, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Like I knew this is where this story was going.
Now I would have put the mushroom. I would put a whole portobello on top of a piece of beef. But so I'm like, so I get this thing out, and I'm like, oh my god, what am I going to do with this? I bite into it. I'm like, I'll just eat it. Terrible. Like it's not good. So I'm like, oh my god. So Christy's in the bathroom or something. She's not there to laugh at me yet. So I get up. And I go back inside, and I'm like, it's not what I want. So I go back inside, and I order like a double cheeseburger. I don't tell the lady they messed up. I don't be like, hey, look, your thing says burgers, and then under burgers, it says mushroom burger, whatever. To me, the fault is in my own. I didn't obviously read.
And I would have handled it the same way, because generally when it comes to stuff like that, like, in retrospect, if you take a step back, think about it, and you're just like, okay, this is kind of on me for not like clarifying. Like it's up 100%. There. I probably like should have been like, hey, is the mushroom burger a burger with mushrooms on it, or is it just a giant fungus? Like
right. So I just ordered, don't say anything. Well, then the manager's outside or whatever like that, and he comes out. And Christy's like, you should have at least took it in there and told him like, hey, like it's under the burger, like it's like the second burger under the burger. So like maybe it should be a little different.
Let them know there was some confusion. Then I'm sure you're not the first person that's done that, and I'm sure you won't be the last.
Well, yes, that's what I come to find out. So then the manager comes out and he said something, and I was like, ordered the wrong one. He's like, I'm like, well, I thought it had mushrooms on it, and he's like, well, did you get? Or you got another burger, whatever it was. I was like, yeah, but I said it's on me for not reading. He's like, it is not on you for not reading. He said it's our job to make sure you understand our menu. And I was like, yeah, but that's not really how I do things. I'm like, I'm at fault here because I clearly just didn't read the next sentence under the burger, so I
That
bought another
says,
one.
"This is a mushroom."
So him and I are going back and forth, and he's like, nonsense. So he like goes in and gets me the price of the double cheeseburger and brings it back to me. Then we proceed to have a conversation again about who was right and who was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, but to me, it's like, it's two people who never play the victim role that have met, so it ends up becoming hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and here's the thing. Here's the thing. And to me, like, you're both correct, which, believe it or not, is possible. Like, it's not like it doesn't have to be one's right, one's wrong all the time, but you're both correct. Like, you were correct in the sense that you ordered the wrong thing because you didn't read. You were confused. And he's correct in the sense that, hey, you know what, maybe to the average person who's just coming in here, maybe the menu's a little misleading. So let me help you out, blah, blah, blah. Like, first of all, that's like a good managerial tactic. That's good business. I'm sure you guys are going to go back now.
Yeah.
But like, had you gone in there and raised hell and like called people names and this is misleading and blah, 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 this is BS, whatever, like, that probably wouldn't have happened. Yeah, for a cheeseburger. Like that whole scenario then would not have happened because then you're putting everyone in a confrontational situation and like nothing good ends up from screaming about a cheeseburger or a mushroom.
No, it was just, but it was cool to see like two people who never play the victim role pitted against each other. I'm like, all right, sir, I'll take my $11 back.
I'll take it back, but I'm not gonna like it.
It was so funny. So then after that, this all like plays one after another. So then after that, we go to the mall because Santa's bringing my wife a pair of jeans. Okay. So I wear 7 for All Mankind jeans, which we're gonna get you into that game eventually, so don't worry about it. But they're like super stretchy and super comfortable, and you just look great in them. It's like the leggings for dudes, you know. So
I mean, 90% of my existence occurs in sweatpants, so I'm pretty comfortable always.
You're like Coach from New Girl.
There you go. Never seen it, but sure.
Oh man, it's not that. The first,
it's not that good.
There's funny parts in it. It's whatever.
It's on for a while, right? I don't know if it's still on, but it was on for a while, so it couldn't be that bad.
It's good, except I have a real issue with like the demasculinity that they try and do with one of the characters in the show, and like it's pretty like insane. Anyways, it's okay.
I digress.
Yeah. That's a whole nother topic. I could literally do a whole podcast on that one character.
We have nothing but time. So.
I know. So maybe we'll do it. So then we go to the store. So I have the jeans on.
Okay.
Right? So we're going to the store. And in my head, right before I go, I'm going to find out today how good of a company this is because I'm going to see if the sales associate notices that I have the jeans on. Right? So we go in there and Christy's talking. Within 30 seconds, the guy looks at me and goes, well, he has his on. And I'm like, but I wanted to know, like in my head, like these are the weird things I think about. I'm like, all right, I'm going to find out what company it is. And they proved me right because you should notice that. Like if your jeans, they're really expensive.
Yeah.
And if they're really expensive and they're really high quality and they really do make a difference, you should be absolutely, as a sales associate, be able to know if I have them on or not.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
He did. And it doesn't have like a logo, like the logo is literally like on the belt loop. Like
okay, so it's not like there's like a defining thing about it. No. Okay, hey, good for that guy.
I know. I was like, damn, that's awesome. So now, of course, I want to go back to that restaurant and buy more jeans. So
be back to the store.
Worth sharing.
No, yeah, I get that. That's cool.
So bullying. We should talk about bullying.
Yeah. So you mentioned this to me last week about you wanted to talk about this specifically, which great. Is there like a specific reason, or is there like something that happened? And...
Well, yeah, I was bullied, and so was my best friend, and now we're fucking awesome because of it. So I think that there's this whole narrative out there now of like hazing and bullying, and I think it's a bunch of moms that are just trying to protect their child from never experiencing a hard time in their entire life. Like, for the most part, if you're getting bullied, you probably or made fun of, and or Christy was bullied too. Are you fucking kidding me?
I think everyone was at some one point or another. Like it's almost like, granted, it's not like a fun experience. I understand that, and it's not pleasant, and it's uncomfortable, and you get your feelings hurt or whatever. But like, it's also not the end of the world. And I think every kid at one point or another goes through it. And I think when you look back on it, I had a bully when I was in like third or fourth, whatever, young. And you look back on it, you're just like, oh yeah, that kid's kind of an ass even now too. Like, so it's just.
But I think that it helps form and make who you are too, because so I'll give my example first, and then I'll give my buddy's example, and we'll kind of get in it. Bullying, hazing, being made fun of, like whatever these things are. I don't know. I think the point is that what, again, media tries to portray is that there are these insane people out there literally just running around making fun of mentally challenged people all the time. Like that, like that doesn't happen. Like that's not happening. Right? Like it's so. Like my mother tried to make me so afraid to go to school. She tried to tell me I was going to get shoved into a locker because she didn't want me to go to school I was going to go to. I'm like, lady, what do you do? Like now looking back, I'm like, why was she telling me these things? But I digress. So I don't even remember why, but this kid wanted to fight me one day, right? So it was all built up, whatever was going to happen at lunch. And
I'll see you in the cafeteria.
In the locker room, right? I'm like, oh God. And I was like tiny and scrawny, whatever. And I'm like, Jesus. So I go home sick, right? And my mom picks me up. One of the better things she's done is she picks me up, takes me home, finds out like why. She's like, all right, you're not sick. What's going on? Instead of telling her, well, she tells me I'm going back to school tomorrow. I got to figure out how to deal with it. And I'm like, wow, like, but what I realized was, so then the buildup was so then it was like, all right, I felt good for like 2 hours, but then every hour that went by, it was 1 hour closer to going back to school tomorrow, which was then going to make it worse because then I didn't deal with it today. And you see like what happened. It's like, I played the victim, you know? So comes down to it. We end up in the locker bay, whatever. We end up not fighting. No big deal. It's over with. I'm like, Jesus Christ, all that stress for nothing. But, I mean, there's a lot that can be unpacked there too, right? Just life principles. Like, don't be the victim. Don't necessarily be the aggressor, but take life head on. Take ownership of what it is. Deal with it because the buildup is always worse than the actual fucking thing. You psych yourself out, all that kind of stuff. But then that was like a defining moment in my life. Well, I saved all of my money and went and bought an $85 weight bench at Play It Again Sports. And that was it. Every day I came home from school, I was like, I will not be, there wasn't like karate classes and shit to take in my hometown. Like, I was like, that's it. I would be the strongest and biggest kid, period. And that's all I did. And that's what I became in school. And I literally put a shit ton of weight on, and that was it. I wasn't bullied. I literally had people before try and fight me because they wanted a good challenge, and I thought that was just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But talk about the issues. But anyways, it was like, so then that was now we're doing this because some kid bullied me. I made the decision that that's never going to happen again. So I sought out training and fitness and being strong and all these things, and it literally led me down a life path to what my career and everything is now, right? And the same can happen for health. So one of my best friends, his nickname's Meatball. If not my best friend, his nickname's Meatball. You know him, Caleb.
Yeah.
So they used to call him Meatball, and his brother and everybody would like pick on. Not it was his brother and all his friends and everybody, but it wasn't like degrading. But it was degrading enough to where he was like more of a hazing, right? But it was enough to where he was like, "Fuck this, dude." That kid, when we were in high school, was in the best shape, not aesthetically. Like when people talk about like someone has a motor that just won't stop. Like he literally would go to a full-on wrestling practice, and I would be going to like the gym for the second time to get ready for football or something like that. And he would come with me.
Yeah.
Like it'd be a full gym workout. Like it was insane. And he lost weight. We still call him Meatball, but he's literally not a meatball.
Yeah. Now it's almost ironic, or it is ironic.
Yeah. So, but again, it's someone. If you have the right parents and if you have the right drive and the right mindset, they don't let you. Again, it's not staying in the victim role. Okay, why were they calling him Meatball? Because he was fucking fat. For the most part, if something like that's happening to you, kids just don't have filters. Like how many times the same parent that's like, don't bully, how many times did she walk down the street and judge somebody in her fucking head today? Oh, look at her. You know what I mean? You just didn't have the balls to fucking say it.
Yeah.
Maybe the bully's got more balls than you. Because at least he's like, hey, kid, you're fucking fat. Is it really that bad? I mean,
No, saying. I see what you're saying, because obviously today we live in a society where, and I see this a lot as a teacher as well. The shift from, how can I help my child like overcome these adversities and these challenges, as opposed to how can I shield them from them. Right. And you see the same thing in education, where when if I did poorly on a test, or if I was getting in trouble in school, it was, what the hell did you do? Or what didn't you do to deserve this grade? Now it's, well, why is my child failing? Why is my child getting in trouble? Because your child's kind of a dick. That's why. They act up. They just disrupt stuff. I 100% get it, in the sense that we have now created this little bubble where we want everything to be as perfect and happy and wonderful for our child, which is great. Obviously you should try to provide a nice, comfortable life for your child, but you can't shield them from everything. And in fact, facing some tough things helps them grow and mature and develop into a fully functioning, round human being.
Right, that isn't just a slave on the Amazon shop line someday.
Yeah.
I picked Sloan up from school yesterday. I don't know what day it is anymore. Tuesday was her last day, and they had pajama day. Nice. So she gets in the car, right? And she goes, we were talking for a minute. She goes, Dad, Ariana didn't like my pajamas. And without even skipping a beat, I literally, I said, who gives a fuck? But then I proceeded to tell her, I'm like, Sloan, did you like them? Yeah. Then it doesn't matter. Literally none of that matters. It doesn't matter what she thinks, what she feels, what she does. The only thing that matters is what you think about them. I said, Dad wears clothes and does stuff all the time that people don't like. But I don't care. If they got a problem with it, that's on them.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. But it's such a young age. You need to teach them that, as opposed to being like, oh, Ariana shouldn't have told me she didn't like my clothes. Maybe she didn't fucking like them. Yeah. I see people dressed all the time where I'm like, I'd never wear that shit. But what the fuck does it matter?
I mean, you sent me a picture of yourself the other day in a cowboy hat, and I was just like, well, not for me, but hey.
That's awesome. Perfect example.
Yeah. No, it's true. And especially, again, I don't have children. You have more experience in this realm than I do. But, kids that age, even, getting older than Sloan, getting into that middle school, high school, the popular perception is important to them.
Yeah.
And it's very influential. And, there's a reason why, teen suicides are skyrocketing. Yeah. It's again a whole other thing. Not to just drop that bomb in there, but it's a very impressionable period of time, and if they're not taught to deal with these certain adversities, emotions, whatever, then they're not equipped to handle it moving forward, and then they make terrible decisions. Whether it be suicide or they just they're stunted emotionally or they don't grow into a mature adult. So yes, obviously wanting, I'm sure like it hurt Sloane's feelings when who was it, Ariana, whatever,
Yeah, I don't know.
didn't like her pajamas. And you know what? You're just like, okay, that's her opinion. Did you like them? Yes. Good.
Yep. And and because we've had these conversations with her for so long, like she dresses herself
Yeah.
every day. Like we'll try and guide her sometimes, but some of the outfits are just extraordinary. But because of that, I mean, I'll let her wear shit that's got like stains all over it.
That's another thing. I'm completely interrupting you. I apologize.
Yeah.
But just, and it's again my personal opinion. It grinds my gears when people use their children as like their little personal dress up dolls.
Right.
Like where they have these perfect little outfits of something that I like no one wears. Like it's like
A three-piece suit on this kid.
yeah, it's just like all right, like your kid's cute in a very like magaziney kind of doll sort of way, which is a little weird. But yeah, like dude, I wear comic book shirts
Right.
all the time. Like,
my daughter walks in with 2 skirts on, a t-shirt that has like 6 stains, and her hair that's matted as shit and is like all frayed out because she won't let us comb it. And it's just like, fuck it.
buzzing your head, kid.
Purple around her lips from eating like honey and bilberry mixed together for breakfast, and she's just walking in like, "Hey guys!" But look, the parents that don't take care of their kid. No, I mean I'm the same way. I think, at a young age, you're teaching them though. You're fostering into them something, in my opinion, that's massively important, right? And so I know that even in that moment when Ariana didn't like it, Sloan really didn't care. It was I'm in the car.
She's kind of reporting back.
Just reporting back, being kind of whiny. Like, of just about like, I don't know, I think I forgot a gummy or something,
Being 4 years old.
Yeah. So it's just like that.
I forgot a gummy.
What'd you say?
I was just what you said. I think I forgot a gummy. I think that hit me. I was just laughing at it.
Yeah. But so anyways, that's kind of what that is. But like, you can't, as a parent, again, I am willing to bet that 90% of the time, if your kid was bullied, he was at fault. Or she was culprit at some point because she gave into it. Right? She was like, you didn't raise necessarily a strong kid. Like, strong people don't get bullied. And I'll tell you what, you're gonna get the shit bullied out of you at work if you don't. Like, the same mom that's trying to protect their kid probably gets bullied every day at work.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just what it is. And I think the other hazing, I think, is important too, because like, I've been hazed. You grew up, you've been hazed.
Of course.
I
think what people do is they take these like extreme cases that they hear on the news, because no, like ABC News is not going to report on like the freshman that had to carry the seniors' equipment to practice. Like they're gonna report about like the freshman who was like, raped with like a pool cue. Like, obviously, because that's news. Right. Obviously, that's terrible, and that's not what we're talking about. Like, that is rape, that is assault. Right. But yeah, like, of course I was hazed. Like, we had to do like stupid, goofy little things, like, stuff that would like embarrass us or whatever. But like, no one hurt me. I mean, granted, I got hurt on the football field because when you're a freshman playing against seniors, you get trucked. But like, nothing was malicious or whatever. Like, it's so people take these extreme scenarios and they run with it. And like, like obviously we need to protect our children from shit like that. We need to protect everyone from things like that. Like, that's terrible. But like, yes, the hazing of like the seniors, goofing on like the freshmen and sophomores, making them carry their equipment or clean their equipment or whatever. It's honestly, it's been happening in different cultures around the world forever. Like, there are cultures where like you do things for your elders or your superiors, and like it's your honor to do so, and it's the same kind of thing. Yep. And again, it's just we hear about a few isolated horrific incidences, and then we're like, oh, no more hazing. Like, well,
no more hazing.
Come on.
And I think for me, I think it's the same with bullying, and I think it's the same with everything in life.
Yeah.
Lean into it. Like when I was being hazed, it was like, all right, well, I just observed. Everybody that put up a fight got it way worse.
Yeah.
Like because then it became fun and funny,
Yeah.
because and like then I'm laughing even. But it was like after the first day when I leaned into it and was like, all right, want to rip the hair off my leg with the tape and put, sticky stuff on it and like whatever. Like, okay. And then it was just like I showed no emotion, and it was just like, all right, well,
Yeah.
he's really boring.
Most of it again is to embarrass you, is to get a reaction out of you.
And
It's
I
not
learned
the
a
end
ton
of
of
the
mental
world.
control. Right. I learned a ton of mental control there because I knew the game. And I was like, all right, well, if I just don't play the game, then I'm out of the game. And I didn't play.
Well, I think a big factor of it, though, is people don't necessarily take the time to, like, digest these things. Like, in the moment, like, you panic and you're just like, oh my God, like, what's happening? Like, blah, blah, blah. And, like, you react. And instead
Right.
of, like you said, like, okay, they're going to do this. If I don't give them the reaction they want, like, they're probably going to move on. And they did. Like, so people, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing with, like, road rage, right? Like, that to me is the scariest goddamn thing in the world. Because here you are behind this, what, 2-ton weapon and driving, 60 to 80 miles an hour, cutting people off, screaming, pissed off. Like, that is a terrifying situation if you actually think about it. And, like, when has screaming at someone or tailgating them or flicking them off, when has that ever accomplished anything?
anytime someone does
Anything except just escalating it to the point where something terrible happens. It's the same thing. Like when you're getting hazed and not reacting, or okay, someone cut me off. They're speeding. Clearly, where they have to go is more important than where I have to be. Fine. Bye bye.
That's what I like when they're driving past me or something. Just be like,
oh my God. I may have told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it's one of my favorites. Actually, I have two for you.
Okay.
The first one, I was in New York. I was picking up my brother, or I was like, I don't know, I was driving around there. And some guy was completely, like, must have been like an inch away from, like, my back bumper. So, like, yeah. So, and it was one of the highways. Like, we weren't, like, in the city. It was like a exterior highway or whatever. But as soon as he was able to, like, pass me, he just, like, floored it, veered around me, cut back in front of me, sped off. And about, like, a quarter mile down the road, he was stopped at a stoplight, and I went right back, right behind him. Just gave him a little wave, and he gave me a finger, and I was like, all right, have a nice day. So that day, I was just like, are you happy? Like, we literally ended up in the same place. Like,
always.
Good for you.
Almost always.
The second one, now this one, I'm not going to say it's necessarily funny because I don't necessarily know the end of the story. So, again, I was driving on the highway, and some jackass was, crossing 2 lanes at a time, like driving in the shoulder. Like it was. I don't know how familiar you are with New Jersey highways, but if anyone's listening in New Jersey, 287 north, it's at any given point 2 to 3 lanes of traffic. People generally drive pretty crazily on there anyway, and it was during I would say maybe Friday evening, maybe. So a decent amount of cars on the road, and this guy's weaving, driving on the shoulder, like going
like the one time the police officer
too fast. Huh?
So the one time the police officer's not around.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I saw him coming, and I just, like, stayed straight, let him go by me. He literally, like, I was in the right lane, he passed me on the shoulder, going at least 85 plus miles an hour.
Yeah.
About 2 to 3 miles down the road, his car was in a ditch off the side of the road. Yeah. So that's why, like, I'm not necessarily laughing because I don't actually know, like, how that ended up. But, like, I was just like, huh.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. You gamble.
Yeah.
That's like,
It's like
so the other day,
like wherever you're going, it's not that important.
probably
I guarantee you.
Yeah, we So I was driving the other day, and this guy was like driving a Porsche. I'm doing like I always do basically 5 miles over the speed limit, like Porsche traffic, right?
Like to me, it depends on the situation. Like sometimes I'll just drive the speed limit. Sometimes I'll go a little over. It's just like however I'm comfortable. Either way, I'm like never flying anywhere.
Right. So I'm like just driving, a couple miles over the speed limit, whatever. And this like guy in this Porsche SUV, like ran and like right behind me, whips it out around me, drives past, honking, flipping me off. I'm like, what's happening here? Like I'm going over the speed limit in the right goddamn lane. Like what the fuck is happening? Like I'm in your way, right?
Yeah.
So I actually messaged Caleb with Meatball, right? I actually messaged him and I was like, no, we never like to whatever. We've had conversations, which is a funny story, so I'll tell it to you too. But I'm like, do you ever sometimes? Well, because then again, I pulled up right behind him at the red light. Except I tried to get beside him so that I could be like super obnoxious, but like I just wasn't able to get the key point right. So, but I was like, do you ever sometimes just actually want to like get it to stop sign and get out of your car and just go berserk? Because him acting like that in my mind, like you're taking for granted that this is 2020 and I can't get out of the car and just beat the shit out of you. Like you're on the premise that I won't do anything.
Yeah.
But like if this was 1960, you probably wouldn't have did that. Like I could have got out of the car and beat the shit out of you for acting like an asshole.
And then driven away with no consequences.
No consequences. And maybe that's why things were a little better in the 60s than they are now. But that's okay. Maybe he needed to be bullied and taught a lesson. So that was that. But then it was funny. Him and Caleb and I were talking the other day. Now I don't know, we're kind of off on it, but I guess it's relevant to like bullying or whatever. And when you're younger, you kind of got a hot head. You got a lot of testosterone. Maybe you're getting into a couple fights now and then, whatever. And I can't remember what Caleb sent me or whatever, but someone had gotten into a fight, and it just was what it was. And I was like, so like we were on the phone. I'm like, I'm pretty convinced that at this point in my life, like with everything I have going on and all this stuff, that one, I just wouldn't be in that scenario, hopefully, right? Where someone was like, I'm going to beat you up,
Yeah.
And two, the other part is, I think that if I was in that scenario at this point in my life, like we were joking around, I was like, I think I would just be like, all right, man, hang on. And I'd just get on the ground and I'd just curl up in a ball and just be like, just let me know when you're done. I'm too tired for this shit.
Don't even care.
Like, zero care in the world. Like, I would like what that person, how they would react to that would just be like, what? Whereas before, like, would have been a massive wrestler that was like, oh, I'm going to end this before it starts. Now, like, polar opposite the other way. Just like, Jesus Christ, I don't have time for that horse shit. Just tell me when you're done.
No, but it's funny that you say that because I think people, because you kind of briefly mentioned it before with the TV show and like the demasculinization of characters and blah blah blah, and I think people misconstrue. I don't know how many people watching know you personally or have a certain view of you, but like think of like here you are, you're this guy who like promotes masculinity and blah blah blah, and then you're just like like if someone wants to fucking beat my ass, like I'll just all right man, like go nuts.
Yeah, I'm not.
And like because I think people again intertwine like aggressiveness and masculinity, which don't necessarily go hand in hand. Right? Like, so I think it's just something that's like commonly misconstrued. And I think you just had the perfect example of here's someone who like values masculinity, who represents himself in a masculine manner, who's just like, if someone wanted to fight me, like go to town, man. Like, I don't have time for this. Like, it's not like,
like I just don't have time for your horse shit. So like, let's just, like, and I think that it's interesting is I think masculinity and aggressiveness, I think now that we're talking about it, that uncontrolled aggressiveness. It's overcompensated aggressiveness that becomes that very like that doesn't intertwine.
Yeah, well, to me, I think that's what the word aggressive implies. There's like a lack of control. So I would say I would more associate masculinity with like drive, maybe, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like I think the word aggressive has a negative connotation to it because, like, obviously, like, you know, the word aggressive means like, you know, I don't know the Webster definition, but like, yeah, you know what I'm saying. But I think in common, you know, context, like it has a negative connotation because you think of like a little bit like uncontrolled, unhinged, that kind of stuff. Whereas, with masculinity, I think it's someone who's driven, someone who has a purpose, someone like has a calling, sort of thing. And I think again, that's where it kind of gets mixed up, and people think like, you know, aggressive, oh, like you're unhinged or blah blah, blah, you're violent, like, which no, aggressive just, you know, has a different definition.
And I think a lot of people, I guess in my mind, that are overly aggressive or trying to be that way
they're probably also overcompensating for something.
Yeah, they're overcompensating, and they're actually trying to get to that driven point, or trying to get to that point where they're actually accessing that masculine. They just don't know how, you know. So it's just like I almost see that person that, let's say, arbitrarily would fight you or I, and think, "Oh man, I feel sorry for you. Like you don't know how to access it. Like you're just trying, you know." And you know, type of same time, it's actually very interesting because I think on here, did I tell the story about, I definitely probably did, about the guy trying to bully me for not wearing a mask at the grocery store a couple months ago when Sloan was with me?
I think you mentioned it.
Yeah, I mentioned it. So there's different scenarios then, right? Like that was, to me, was a teaching scenario. Like I would not, so that this is important. I would, if someone was being aggressive towards me and wanting to fight me, if my daughter was there with me, I would not lay down on the ground and curl up in a ball and just be like, be done. If it was just me and like, or me and you out, I would do it because, to be perfectly honest with you, the story and the hilariousness that would come of that for us is 1,000,000% worth that, right? Like, it would be so funny because you would start laughing so hard that then I would be in a ball on the ground laughing, and then he really legitimately wouldn't know what to do. Like, so it would be funny, you know, because it's just like, but at the same time, like, then I don't have no desire to do that. Yeah. But now if it's my daughter there, she's not.
It changes the whole thing because now you're in a parental role and you have to protect her and blah, blah, blah. And
protect her and teach.
Yeah.
You know, that we don't get bullied. You know what I mean? And it's I think hard if someone's never been in these scenarios or bullied or hazed to understand that being there with my daughter and viewing it as a bully situation, and or being there by myself and not viewing it as in a bullying situation. Like, how could someone do that? Mm-hmm. But if you've ever been in those scenarios, you do.
Sure.
They're very different. It changes the dynamic drastically. But yeah, I think that's how we got on that.
Yeah, I got that up there.
Yeah, but he agreed with me. He's like, dude, no way. Like, no way. He's like, I literally would just sit down and be like, okay, when you're done, just tell me, and then I'm going to go on my day.
I'm going to get another coffee.
Right. I got way too much work to do, which again then is the fact of why we wouldn't be in that situation, because we're doing things. Like,
not sure.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, like, nothing good happens past 11 p.m. Like,
that was you ever watch How I Met Your Mother? I think they pushed it to like 2, but
okay.
Yeah, the whole story was like, oh, nothing good ever happens after 2 a.m. or whatever, or like, I was just like, first of all, I'm like closer to waking up than I am being awake. So definitely not. It was funny. I thought yesterday was like Friday because it felt like Friday because, you know, it was the eve of Christmas Eve or whatever. And Kristen and I watched some great British baking show on the couch till about 9, then moved into bed, and it was like lights out at 10. And I was just like, this is perfect. I'm done.
Perfect. Speaking of, we watched a show that was pretty funny. I only could get through like 1 episode or 2 episodes because it wasn't like great. I don't know, it was a baking show someone told me to watch. and like people bake, but it's like people like you and I go on there and bake, and so it like doesn't look good.
Oh, it's just like a bunch of like amateurs who have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually pretty funny.
It is. It was funny, and it's like, except like the first episode, they make them do like a Donald Trump one, and I'm like, of course, like why does politics have to be involved? Like why they did it,
Yeah,
and like that's my
yeah.
And so like after that, like the first two that they did or whatever, like the first, I was like, oh, this is hilarious, and then they did that, and I'm like, you lost me. You had a really funny idea, you lost me, you know. But then I think I watched the next episode, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is pretty funny. Like,
I would, if you're like kind of into that sort of thing. Like, I in a million years did not think I would be like into like a baking show, but a couple of our friends turned us on to it, and it's the Great British Baking Show, and it's a bunch of I think it starts off with like 12 amateur bakers or something like that, and but they're talented, and like they have these like challenges, and honestly, like, I'm not terribly interested in like what they bake. Like, some of the stuff looks delicious. I mean, most of it looks delicious. But what actually gets me hooked is like how invested these people like get. Yeah. Like, they are so emotionally tied to it. Like, they're crying and they're laughing and they're like they're putting their heart and soul into this. And like, to me, like, that's the addicting part, is seeing some people who like, and these aren't their jobs. Like, they have jobs and they just are amateur bakers. They do it for a hobby. Some of them with the aspiration to, turn pro with it or whatever. Right. But like how much that they love this and they put into it, and you can tell like when they don't put something like forward that they are proud of, like they are crushed. And like that, to me, like that amount of like dedication and drive and care, like that's what like addicts me to the show.
Yeah, this is the complete opposite. It's like everybody's just trying to give you a shitty story for the TV show. But
you're like that. I think I probably, like you, I could probably get through a couple episodes, but I don't think it would, speak to me as much as this does.
I don't think I'll watch another episode unless someone messages me and is like, dude, this one's hilarious. You need to put like season. Like, I'd probably watch another. But it's funny that, so I purposely don't watch shows like the British Baking Show, because the only time I watch TV is at nighttime. Sure. And like, I don't want to get fucking hungry again. Like there's always like these shows on, and it's like best steaks in the world. I'm like, I can't watch that. Like, maybe I'm trying to pry the doors open to Whole Food to get a ribeye at 1 a.m. Like,
give it to me. No, I mean, I will say that was one of the benefits of when I switched over to the intermittent fasting, is that it puts me on a clock. So I like know that like at 8 p.m. I'm done.
Yeah.
And like that, to me, it makes it easier. So for me, I was just like, oh, all right, it's 8:01. Not eating anything till tomorrow.
Yeah.
When I didn't do that, like that's when I'd be like, oh, that cake looks delicious. Let me go make some popcorn. Like, or like whatever. Like, because then you start to like cheat and you like blah, blah, blah. So like that was 100%. To me. So I've been doing again, here we are, a completely different topic now. I've been doing the intermittent fasting since about August now, and to be honest, I don't think I like ever go back. Like, I think it works for me. And how I do it is like I stop at 8. Like, that's the last time. Like, obviously today's Christmas Eve. We're gonna be at a party. Like, today we'll call it a wash. On an average day, I stop at 8, and then I usually don't eat until like 11 a.m. Somewhere between 11 and 12 the next day. Yep. Now, I know, there are these, I don't know everything about it, but I know that like people say, oh, well, it forces you into like a fat burning state, and I'm not sure it's actually true. I don't know if you're actually not eating long enough to be like pushed into a fat burning state. But what I do know is that like it basically limits the amount of calories you're doing, which, if you're really talking about the basics of like fat loss, it's calories in versus calories out. So essentially, you're skipping a meal, which is, there you go. That's probably 500 to 600 to 700 calories that you're just not eating now. And what it does do is it puts me, again. You just
made the assumption that that person didn't go to fast food. You made the assumption that it's like oats and eggs.
But what it does do, and like I said, and I just said this before, was what I find the most beneficial is it puts me on a clock. So I know, like, there is no more like late night snacking and cheating and that stuff. And that's, I think, what generally gets people in trouble. It's like the calories that they don't necessarily count because well, it's just like a handful of peanuts or chips or it's a late night peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like, it all counts.
22 grams of fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. The no, I've been doing intermittent fasting. Like, even I find it when I'm not like right now, I'm not doing it end time like you are, right?
Okay.
Like, I kind of, it's like, just don't eat all morning until like mid or late afternoon and then just eat. But like, we had all that stuff going on with the family. And so it was like, I don't have fucking time to deal with this shit. It was just like, but I did the generalities and it kept me on track.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even, you know what I mean? Even with like making the choice not to go to the gym during that month and like doing all these things.
Sure.
Just basically being like, well, I'm not going to eat until like 2. And then I'm just going to eat the rest of the day until I'm full. It's enough to be like, wow, you don't look like a piece of shit and you're still fucking right. Are still all the same as they used to be. Like, just give your body a break, prime it. And I believe we're meant to live in extremes, which is actually we should do a whole podcast.
So I also think, you brought that up, and I think that's a good thing, is that it gives it's something that people overlook, is that it gives your digestive tract a time to rest. Because we're animals, like we are animals, human beings are mammals, we're animals. We're meant to, like you said, go through these periods of extremes, whether it's like feasting or fasting or blah, blah, blah. Like, obviously now we're accustomed to having like 3 meals a day, but, look at all these, animals who live in the wild. Like, they don't have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They just kind of eat when they can, and then they don't when they are hunting or don't have a food source.
Or they go like a week without food, like an anaconda will smash something and then not eat. They'll eat a whole panther, but then they just won't eat for a month.
But but what I'm saying is, I think it's good for our gut, for our digestive tract, to have these periods where it actually doesn't have to do anything. Like, if you're constantly eating every 3 to 4 hours or whatever, like, that's not enough time to like give your digestive tract a rest. Well, I mean, you have to rest everything else in your body, right? It's still organs. It's still like, part of you. Like, you rest your muscles. You go to sleep. You rest your brain or whatever. Like, it's to me, it kind of made sense.
No, that was my thing. Is it made, again, everything I do and tell people, like, it needs to pass the sniff test and then it needs to pass the actual test, like, in my life before I tell somebody that, right?
Yeah.
And fasting did both of those. And what I noticed, the biggest thing, I mean, I've put my window down to 4 hours of eating before. And we can talk about that before. So I've taken it down to that. When I was choosing to do that, that's when I felt the best. A like 4 or 5 hour window, that's when I really functioned the best. I found that it was very difficult for me to choose that with how my days are structured with my daughter.
Okay.
It because in that 4 hour window, there's a lot of eating that takes place. And, when you have
a kid, then you can't dedicate that much time to just feeding.
Right. Yeah. So like, that's something I will be very interested in going back to when she's like 8. So like 4 more years. I'm very interested in something like that. And when we have our personal chef someday. But I digress. I noticed the biggest change when I go from fasting to like tomorrow. I'll notice the big change because we're going to eat breakfast tomorrow. Christy's making this big, awesome breakfast thing because my mom and our friend are spending the night at our house. And the same thing. So I noticed that then when I eat in the morning, a few things: how lethargic I am throughout the day, how my brain doesn't function even a fractionally as focused and well as it did before, how my workouts lag and I don't have the same amount of energy, and how my gut is bloated or distended in essence. And I'm using that as like a general term, but
that's actually, so that's out of the things that you listed. That is the one that I've noticed the most. Like, if I like go back to like a normal day's eating schedule. I mostly get that like kind of bloated. Like, I wake up and I was just like, wow, it looks like I have like a gut. kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Like when you fast, you wake up,
To be
you're like,
honest
oh
though,
my
like,
God, why
and
did
maybe I
you
haven't been
fast?
paying attention though. Like and I know other people have said like they 100% feel like the mental clarity or whatever, and maybe it's just because I haven't gone back for such a long time. But
Yeah.
I feel like I have not noticed that. But again, maybe I'd have to like go back and then switch back on and off to
You
like
should,
notice.
because it's the holidays today and tomorrow, you should go back. Like you should
Yeah,
eat
just kind of
after
see. Yeah,
do it tomorrow and then go back on Monday to not. You'll know. I'm telling you, you'll notice it. Like,
I'm sure I will.
and there's a whole scientific reason why. You
Okay.
know, but and then the other one I noticed really big is like if I eat sugar first or like have that insulin response, like then I'm like, oh, like I don't have the high energy from it. Like it's very interesting how fast your digestive tract changes.
Yeah.
And so yeah, way. And like I can eat and look like I'm pregnant when I'm fasting. Like fast and then eat in that 4 hour. Let's say I was doing a 4 hour window. Literally look pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Go to bed and wake up and be like, so there's like 3 of my abs. Like your body becomes so efficient. Whereas if you eat all day, it's like that distended, gross. Like,
well, yeah,
I'm
it's
telling
like
you,
anything. Like if you're using something
gross.
constantly, like
Yeah,
it's not going to be as efficient. Like it needs time to like reset and relax a little bit.
yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of fasting. I tell people all the time, like,
Yeah, I think a lot of good comes from it, and I'm happy that there's more of a shift in that direction for people because for a while, like I remember growing up, my mom, who's a nurse, always said, "Oh, like breakfast is the most important meal of the day."
Yeah.
And now it's just now like you talk to most people in any sort of like health or wellness field, and they're just like, "Yeah, I haven't eaten breakfast in like 10 years." Like it's just
like, and it's funny because of that. And then like, I mean, I remember football in the off season. I was like 5 meals a day. You're eating I mean, just crazy stuff. And I always felt that like I remember choking breakfast down. It was like
I feel like I love breakfast. I think breakfast is like delicious. So now I just consider like I have brunch every day. So
yeah, I mean, dude, I'll do breakfast food for dinner. Like I'll make like a 10 egg omelet or something. So I can just smash it. But I think that fasting's awesome, and I think that the proof is in the pudding because it's like pick something you're ailing from and just fast in the morning, and like it's gonna get better. Like high blood pressure, it's gonna get better. Like your cholesterol numbers, they'll get better. Probably. I'm not telling you to go fast and that it's a treatment for your thing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, you got skin issues.
Look at it, yeah.
Digestive issues, start fasting. Like mental clarity, start fasting. Pick one. Like it's gonna start to help. And one of my big things was like, look at history, and I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but look at history. The lean, strong people were not the highfalutin society. Like that started like in Rome, I believe, when it was like you became
throughout history, being like overweight or fat was like a sign of wealth.
Yeah, it's
because you had a surplus.
Right. Yeah, and I think that that's interesting because what did I know I sent it to you. I gotta see if I can find it because it's so relevant. That the Spartans viewed their figure so like they viewed their figure as like one of the highest things of honor, like how you look.
I don't know if that was necessarily the Spartans. I know they were like a super physical, war culture. But I know did I lose you? You there?
Yeah, nope, I'm here.
Oh, you're all right. You just got very still. I thought. But I know, yes, in ancient Greece was, at least again to my knowledge, from what I remember, was one of the first like ancient cultures to really put a value on like the human form.
Yeah, and look, I can't remember what I read. It was like basically to be a beast was like a sin. Like they were like, you're just a lazy piece of shit if you were like in that culture. Like it was.
It's wasteful because not one person needs that much food. Like this is food that could be like supplying other people who need it, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, like I completely understand. And now, and I remember reading something recently. I forget where, but it was within the last, we'll say, century-ish, give or take a decade. We are now in the period where the poor are now the fat as opposed to the wealthy. Yeah. And it's been this shift, and that now goes to like food quality and abundance.
Correct.
Because it's easy to go spend $5 at McDonald's and get a full meal, as opposed to, oh shit, I just shifted everything.
10 minutes later, that's the problem. You don't get no.
Well, yeah, because it's nothing. Yeah, it's literally just fills you up, and then for a half hour maybe, and then you're just like, oh, I could totally eat that again. So you do, because it's $5.
Almost yeah, that's interesting. Anyways, all right. I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah,
so basically,
we're kind of all over the place, but I love it.
I don't even know how to recap that. Bully people and fat.
Quick recap would be, bullying, hazing, is not the end of the world. In fact, it could help you grow and mature as a person, as long as you understand what it is and you're able to, deal with it in a productive kind of way. Obviously, there are extreme cases that are horrific and horrendous, and that's not what we're talking about. And then we kind of went into road rage and dealing with anger and that kind of stuff, and then we ended up on dieting. So
I don't think that people that focus on the outliers listen to our podcast, so I don't think we have to worry about.
No, but I think it's always, I think it's good, because I think a general theme that we talk about is that like everything we end up talking about is the general connection is self-improvement. So whether that is from dealing with exterior hardships like bullying or whatever, or dietary hardships. Because look, I'm not saying like, and I hate the word diet, because to me diet has been pushed into this little corner where it implies like I'm going on a diet, which means there's a beginning and an end. And it's not. Like your diet is what you eat. But I like to use the word nutrition just because I feel like it is more all-encompassing. But yeah, working on your nutrition is tough. And again, nothing that we're talking about here is like, we're not saying any of this is easy. Like dealing with bullies is tough. Dealing with your nutrition is tough. Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to, work out is tough. Not punching a guy in the face who's trying to start crap with you, that's tough. Like, we get it. Yeah. And I don't think either of us are saying that we're, perfect specimens, or that we're in any way saying like follow our lead. It's just something that we like to talk about. And I think, people could benefit from just hearing a different point of view.
I think the most important thing is, and I don't like to use failure just to learn, because that's just really all failure is that you guys can come out here and
have your family locked away in the bedroom or something.
Basically, because I didn't know the time she was going to wake up. But I think an important thing is for everybody to understand is that look at you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Say hi, everybody. I think an important thing for everybody to know is like I've started and stopped everything I do multiple times, or not even stopped, but like learned. Like I use
adjusted, changed, whatever,
all the time. And that's why I use the budget example all the time, because it's your budget always is changing, always. Even if you're on like a fixed income,
sure,
it's still going to change. Like you're going to want something new this month, or not this month, or invest here, or move money. Like, and so it's the same with diet and nutrition and exercise. And there's nothing. I mean, they're all one and the same. So I think it's important to be like, all right, well, I fast and like we just talked about. You got the 8-hour window-ish thing going on. Well, I was doing 4 for a while, and then I was like, all right, this isn't sustainable in my life at this moment, so I need to change. So I went to 6 and 8, and then over the last month, I just literally was like, all right, I'm going until 12 or 2, depending on the day, and then I'm going to eat until I'm full the rest of the day. And if I'm full at 4, I'm full at 4. If I'm full at 10, I'm full at 10. Like, but you're always in the trajectory of upward. Like you're not slipping back down. That's the important part.
Absolutely.
Right, I'm
Right.
going to say every day and in every way I'm getting better and better and better. You're going to be shy.
We're shy today. All right, man.
Want to tell them I'm a genius and I apply my wisdom? She's not sure what she thinks about this thing.
Hey, it's a little first time jitters. It's okay.
That's all right. All right, dude. We're
All
good.
set.